Primeramente, felicitaciones. My Spanish is more like Spanglish, so we will be doing this interview in English with translation. Mitch, if you don't mind. So let's begin with the beginning. Nemonte, tell me, how did this all begin? You can feel free to translate if you want.
Pues primeramente iniciamos con el pequeño instalación de agua de lluvia, en donde los cofanes, donde los otros pueblos que ya vivían con contacto con petroleras, hubo derrames diarios. Entonces, Mitch ya estaba viviendo con los pueblos del norte de la Amazonía, con los cofanes. Empezamos con agua de lluvia, instalaciones para entregar en las comunidades. Entonces ahí asumimos con otros miembros de las comunidades como Cofán, Siona. Y yo vengo de otro lado de comunidad guaraní de Pastaza, donde 500,000 hectáreas, donde es virgen, donde no hay petrolera, donde no hay carretera. Entonces, llegando allá, invitación de Mitch, yendo a mí, me nació una coraje, rabia y valentía, porque le vi a las mujeres lavando en río, en ropa, donde había un derrame, donde ellos bañan diariamente los niños. Entonces, eso era que unimos, dijimos como, no vamos a esperar que el gobierno nos venga a venir con palabras desarrollo. Las empresas siempre vienen a decir desarrollo. Si permites extraer el petróleo de su territorio, va a haber educación, salud. Pero realmente no era eso. Era realmente desastre, destruir, talar, destruir, contaminar. Entonces dijimos, vamos a hacer nuestra alianza, nuestro trabajo.
Nemonte said that our work began building access to clean water for communities living downriver from the oil fields. She said that her people live in a huge, vast forest. A big part of it is untouched still by oil. And so she visited for the first time after I had been working with communities in the northern part of Ecuador, building clean water systems with the Cofán, Siona, Sequoia people. And I invited Nemonte to come visit and to witness an oil spill. And she said for her, coming from this beautiful virgin forest, she saw an oil spill for the first time, and she saw indigenous women that were trying to find water to wash pots and pans and wash clothes along the side of the river. And she realized that we can't wait for the government or the companies to try to clean this up or to try to help out. They always talk about development or that they're gonna save us, but we have to do this ourselves. And so we built this alliance between indigenous nations and between people from around the world to build solutions to the crisis that we were experiencing.
The theme of today is the way forward. What does the way forward look like when it comes to environmental issues and specifically the Amazon? You can keep translating. It looks like that's not working.
El tema de hoy es el camino adelante. Para ti, ¿qué es el camino adelante?
Para mí camino adelante sería como los pueblos indígenas estamos claros en nuestro territorio, vivimos, respetamos, tenemos esa relación, pero yo veo que la amenaza de ese sistema viene día a nuestro territorio para extraer petróleo, para extraer minería, para deforestación. Entonces, para el camino largo sería bueno que hacemos, no solamente esperan que sea lucha de los pueblos indígenas en sus comunidades, sino hacer aliado una estratégico, como estamos trabajando en una organización Amazon Frontline, que nos acompaña a nosotros de defender nuestro territorio con una mirada de contar nuestras historias, de lo que viene diaria amenaza. Entonces, sería el camino, no solo la gente esperen que estemos luchando los solamente pueblos minoritarios, Realmente los pueblos minoritarios tenemos 80% de diversidad que damos la vida al planeta. Entonces sería para mí el mensaje, el camino, apoyar. Por ejemplo, como está haciendo Hilton, está reconociendo nuestro trabajo de década de 10 años. Este apoyo nos hace como levantar, fortalecer nuestra organización, unir más aliados en las comunidades, ampliar a las mujeres lideresas que pueden levantar a los pueblos indígenas. También sería bueno que todo lo que estamos escuchando, si hablamos de cambio climático, pongamos ser responsable en la otra forma estratégica de seguir apoyando, de seguir como sentir parte, no solamente dejar.
Nemonte said that the way forward is this. It's trust and collaboration between people around the world. It's listening to indigenous communities who are 5% of the human population but are protecting 80% of our Earth's biodiversity. It's lifting up women as leaders in our communities and as leaders around the world. It's realizing that the climate crisis implies all of us. It's realizing that we need to be all in this together, building solutions together. And we can't wait and think that the Amazon is far away or this place is far away. We need to join forces and work together to protect our planet.
Mitch, can you talk about some of the biggest obstacles to this collaboration and the solutions you've been talking about? Specifically, what do those look like?
Beyond the fact that when I moved to the Amazon, I couldn't walk in the forest and they had to teach me how to walk again.
And feel free to interpret as you're answering the question.
Okay.
You're doing it very well, and we're very impressed.
Well, Nemonte and I wrote a book together, and the book is called We Will Be Jaguars. And the book is the story of Nemonte's life and the life of her people. But one of the core messages in the book is around waves of outsiders that have come into the Amazon. First, the missionaries, then oil companies, then conservationists and government over years. And one of the themes that comes out and one of the learnings is that the outsiders come in with this mentality of being superior. The missionaries arrived with this idea that they needed to save the Warani people's souls. And in the book you learn Nemonte, as a 6-year-old girl, is trying to figure out what are we trying to be saved from, you know? And then the oil companies came promising progress, development, jobs. But what happened was massive environmental contamination, inequalities, corruption, divided communities, new social illnesses like alcoholism. And in a lot of ways, many of the bigger conservation organizations came and created national parks that then displaced indigenous communities as well over years. Also with good intentions and this idea to save. And so I think the biggest obstacle is this mentality of superiority, this mentality of we're going to come and help you, when I think what needs to be the mentality, and we've been seeing it throughout the day and all of the conversations, I'm going to come and listen to you, I'm going to come and learn from you. This is your territory, your home, your village. And I think that that's what we've tried to do at Amazon Frontlines, and it's been a hard journey. You know, we have organizing centers across the upper Amazon where at any given time there's 10 languages being spoken, folks from different cultures around the world, indigenous cultures. But we've learned to build trust. And the indigenous peoples have a lot of reasons not to trust us, but over time we've learned to build trust. And once you have that, and the joy in the work, then you can start building these formidable strategies together, leveraging resources, technologies, indigenous wisdom, knowledge of the land to do amazing things. big things and dream big. So I think that that's probably the biggest challenge.
I'd love Nemonte to talk about what authentic collaboration looks like. You talk about it, you write about it in the book.
Colaborar auténticamente, ¿qué significa la confianza entre pueblos y entre gente?
Para mí colaborar significaría la gente de la afuera tienen que escuchar primeramente a los pueblos indígenas y luego respetar. Esa es la respuesta.
Listen first to the indigenous people.
She said, yeah, listen. Authentic collaboration implies listening to our people, listening first, learning, and then constructing solutions together.
Talk to me a little bit about the model that you have that includes lawyers, that includes filmmakers, that includes storytellers. It's an interesting grouping in getting the story out. Mitch, maybe you can start for me, and then maybe Nemonte could answer as well.
So as we mentioned, as it was shown in the video, we started this work with a really simple goal of building access to clean water with indigenous communities. And we started with a question. All of these communities living downriver from the oil fields, and we had a big assembly, women and elders and youth. We're talking about what do we need to do? Do we need to focus on education or health? And then it became so clear that without clean water, we can't survive. There is no education, there is no health. We need clean water. That's how it began. But when Nemonte came and started working with us on the project, she saw that oil spill. She saw the way the companies and the governments insulted the dignity of the communities, poisoning their rivers, and then offering, grocery bags full of cooking oil and rice and a little gallon of water as compensation for polluting their source of life. She was the spark that really brought all of the nations together to think bigger about what needs to happen. And one of the things and it's also described in the book, is Nemonte said, we're going to go to all of our communities across the entire upper Amazon. We're not going to ask what communities need, but we're going to ask what their dreams are. And it turns out their dreams were really big and really beautiful.
Like what?
Dreaming of a world where the outsiders respected their lands, respected their knowledge. Dreaming of a world where their grandkids could live in the traditional way, could live off the land, but could also integrate aspects of Western civilization, the modern economy, into their lives. And so what we ended up building was a collective, we like to call it, it's like a Swiss Army knife of solutions to this crisis on the front lines. Building access to clean water, building access to clean energy, solar systems, communications infrastructure, working with youth to train them up as lawyers, as rights defenders, working with communities to build out land patrols, but really listening to their knowledge, their understanding of the land, how the land needs to be protected, and then leveraging new technologies that can support them, like satellite, like GPS, like camera traps, forming women's collectives that are building out solutions, economic solutions, recovering traditional healing systems, working with youth to tell their stories, because one of the things that the elders say is we surround ourselves with stories. That's through stories we come to a sense of who we are and where we're going, where we come from and where we're going. And right now, the dominant society, Western industrial civilization, has a pretty dominant narrative, and indigenous communities are trying to recover their own stories in a way to recover their own sense of their ancestry and the future. And that's the reason why we wrote the book. Nemonte's father told her, we've beat the oil companies, we've beat the government, we've protected 500,000 acres of land, but the threats continue to come. And that's because the outsiders, the white man, is destroying what he doesn't understand. So your job mi hija, is to go out and tell the world who we are as indigenous peoples, what the forest means to us. So at least if they're going to try to destroy it, they can look us in the eye and they can know who we are and what we're protecting.
Nemonte, you talked about not being seen, that this prize was an opportunity to be seen. Tell me a little bit about what you will do with this prize money.
Yo creo que este reconocimiento, ese premio es para visibilizar, para unir, para tener fuerza y seguir continuando, que siempre los pueblos indígenas vivimos en la selva, decimos, es nuestro hogar, nuestra vida de espacio, entonces seguiremos luchando, nosotros no vamos a parar de defender, vamos a seguir defendiendo para nuestros hijos en futuras generaciones. Nosotros no como pueblos indígenas pensamos solo hoy, solo por mí, sino para mañana, que significa para el futuro.
For us, this prize is really one of the first times where we feel like the world is recognizing our cultures, our stewardship, our leadership, protecting our lands, climate. And we want the world to know that as indigenous communities, we want to continue living in our own way, on our land, stewarding our resources, protecting our forests, because we don't only think of today, but we think of future generations in every action that we do and everything that we're doing day in and day out.
The time that we're in at this moment, conversations about climate change are sometimes challenging and fraught with misinformation and disinformation. Do you think things are changing? That people here in the West care about what's happening in the Amazon and care about the climate, not just in their own backyards now, but across the globe?
Pues ahí yo veo que he viajado también en Dubái, en COP, y a otras partes también ha escuchado mucha gente. Viene de todo el mundo y están mismos presidentes, mismos políticos, donde en el país quieren explotar más petróleo. Entonces yo miro que los mismos presidentes, mismos ministros están como haciendo compromiso de proteger, pero cuando vuelven en su país no protegen, no respetan el derecho de los pueblos indígenas ni a las comunidades. Ellos mismos deciden en reunión muy bonito, en 10 años. Yo estaba escuchando con el presidente de Dubái, con los presidentes máximos, con los petroleros. Estaban diciendo, 10 años vamos a dejar de consumir petróleo, no más en la Amazonía explotación. Y todo el mundo aplaudía y yo estaba ahí como en mi mente, en mi corazón, dije, esto es solo palabra, creo, no es voluntad. Y cuando vuelvo a mi país, escucho que hay más ronda petrolera donde yo defendí que está queriendo entrar. Entonces, yo veo no hay compromiso, no hay decisión y no hay respeto. Yo creería que en el espacio que tengo esperanza, no en los políticos, ni menos en las empresas, yo sí creo, tengo esperanza con las sociedades civiles, como gente que estamos aquí escuchando, podemos cambiar, porque yo con mi lucha, con mi experiencia es la unidad, con las mujeres, con los jóvenes, con los activistas, con los cineastas, sí lo podemos lograr.
Nemonte said that she's now traveled around the world and she's attended the climate conferences, and she was in Dubai last year and she was listening, and over nearly 200 countries committed to transition away from fossil fuels, from oil extraction in 10 years. And she wondered if that was going to be true, if they were speaking with their heart, if they were speaking honestly. And she had a lot of doubts. And then when she returned to the Amazon, the very first thing that she learned was that her very government that had committed to transitioning away from fossil fuels was now trying to begin another oil auction on her territory. And so for her, she believes that there's a lot of promises, governments, politicians, big corporations, but there's no follow through. But what she does really believe in is the power of the people, and that people around the world are waking up, are wanting to feel that connection with Mother Earth, are changing their behaviors. And I think that is the strategy to ensure that we can collectively address the climate crisis, is through building alliances between civil society, indigenous peoples around the world, and really ensuring that we can address this climate crisis collectively.
We are giving everyone a copy of your book that we've been talking about, and I know there'll be a book signing in the garden in just a little bit. What are your goals with the book? What are you hoping that you're able to achieve with it?
Pues esto es el mensaje, como mi papá dijo, gente del mundo, gente blanco, no entiende, la selva hace más destrucción. Escríbele eso para que ellos puedan entender y respetarlo. Entonces, mi misión es como reeducar, volver a amar a la Madre Tierra, volver a conectar el amor, volver a conectar espiritual, que se deben realmente respetarla a la Madre Naturaleza. Eso es el mensaje que he escrito.
My dream and our dream with the book is for people to read my story, the story of my people, and find it within them the power to reconnect with Mother Earth, to find love for the land and the forest. You know, my father told me that the outsiders are destroying what they don't understand, and that it was my mission to share with them and help them understand Mother Earth, life-giving Mother, our forests, nature. And that's what my dream is with this book, is that it will help people reconnect with the earth.
What has been the biggest lesson that you have both learned that people in this room could take away in tackling a problem that is giant, and that I think many people might say is insurmountable almost?
El aprendizaje que aprendimos es como la confianza y el respeto y la honestidad contar. Entonces eso hemos aprendido los dos, porque mi cultura no somos escritores, mi cultura es oral. Hasta ahora seguimos oral contando. Este oral se volvió a vivir escritura y seguirá viviendo vivo. Entonces eso los dos, como yo vengo mucho de cultura de oral, de cultura de Mitch es escribir, la gente lee, pero nosotros contamos. Entonces, esa historia volvió a revivir a mi familia y esa historia volverá a vivir muchos años.
For me, one of the greatest lessons of writing this book together was the power of story, and how important it is to listen, how important it is to build trust, to respect between each other. And Nemonte said that her people come from an oral storytelling tradition, been telling stories for thousands of years, have never written their stories down. And Mitch comes from a tradition of reading and writing. And so we formed a team to write my story and write my people's story. And it was beautiful because I relived old memories, relived stories from my youth, and ultimately believe that we created a story that has the power to change the world.
We've seen that a lot in many of the stories that we've heard throughout the day, the power of a story to really educate people. My final question for you. You're an environmental organization. You're winning a humanitarian prize. Are those two things one and the same? Are they different? How do you see your work?
Nemo said that I should respond to this one. I know folks don't want to hear from me much, but the climate crisis is a humanitarian crisis. You know what I said at the beginning of my comments is there can be no health, education, social justice on a dead planet. We can't work on food systems when we're dealing with droughts and floods and farmers across the land can't produce food. Technology isn't going to save us if the forest isn't producing rain. So I think that we think that this is a really powerful moment, and the Hilton Prize, it's a humanitarian prize, in recognizing an indigenous organization, an indigenous collective that is working on traditional humanitarian work, clean water, solar energy, communications infrastructure, relief during the pandemic, but that's also working to protect a forest that sustains us all, that's working to protect a forest that holds most biodiversity in the world, that's working to save a forest that produces 20% of the fresh water on planet Earth, that's working to uplift cultures that have been carrying thousands of years of knowledge on how to walk lightly on this land. And if there's one thing that we all need more than anything right now, is that, to learn how to walk lightly on this land, to learn how to walk respectfully on this earth, to learn how to create societies that can thrive and flourish and, yes, grow, while honoring and respecting the very source of life itself. So we think that it's entirely compatible to be winning a humanitarian award while protecting our planet's forests, rivers, and climate.
Thank you so much, Nemonte and Mitch. And thank you, and congratulations to you. Muchas gracias y felicitaciones. Gracias.
Gracias.